All right, Lucas, we're live again and back in town. Back in town on onboarding this time, talking onboarding disasters and how to avoid them. How's your week been, Lucas?
Quite busy, but hopefully we are gonna have a nice finish to it. And I'm so happy to be here and actually talking about onboarding.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be talking about fantastic onboarding today. I think there's a lot of stuff that we have to cover, of course. But, coming from HR, Lucas, yourself, how important is onboarding for employees?
It is super important. This is I think, kind of first touch when actually an individual has with the business, apart from interview process, gives you a little bit insight, but the onboarding journey can make or break the whole process, somebody being engaged or not. So it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that make or break is so important. Often, onboarding, it feels like it's one of those things that's really not done well, in many organizations as well. And I find that, that this, it's, why is it? Why is it onboarding is always a frictionful process?
For a lot of times, because it is a lot of manual tasks, I think generally when it comes to onboarding, you need to collect documents, you need to put somebody in the system, somebody needs to reach out. There's the policies, there's something to sign off, there's documents to read. There can be so many different steps. And usually it takes a lot of time and it's very repetitive,
Yeah.
not exciting at all. So that's why a lot of companies get it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today we're going to really uncover a lot of these items today. So really looking forward to it, Lucas. So let's get into it, shall we? If you are joining us on LinkedIn, hello, shout out where you are from. Tell us where you're tuning in from. If you're joining us on any of other channels, tell us again where you're tuning in from. And we will endeavor to answer any questions on this show today for you. The hours between yes, I'll take the role and now what, most companies get this wrong. And I find that it's always because of a process that they haven't got under wraps, aka don't have an operational system which can, really take the pain out of, onboarding. Last week we talked about hiring, guys, and we were looking at that. And then obviously this week we're talking about what happens next. I'm joined by our gracious founder, Lukas, CEO and founder of Kuma HR. And of course, he's been in, the HR industry for quite some time. Lukas, do you want to just give everyone a quick rundown to people who don't know who you are?
Yeah, 18 years of HR, adapt, scales up big corporates, done it all. Help companies to scale globally, the last project I was on, help open 30 offices, over 1,000 people. So been there, done it, use other different tools you can name under the sun, utilize other different softwares and find quite few issues. Hence, I started Kumo HR and built something that is very useful, end-to-end HR processes based on AI platform and
Absolutely.
built by HR for HR.
Amazing. And I'm Antonio Junio. I run innovation over here at Kumo, and I am an AI, I suppose, Sherpa, they call me, a Sherpa, bringing in the AI age, which is great. So, the next 60 minutes are going to be framed, well, say 60 minutes, it's going to be about 35. We're going to try and push it in for you guys so you're not inundated with, a lot of information. And also we all have school runs to do. So the next 35 minutes is going to be looking at why most onboarding operations fail before even day one. Yeah. And that's really, really important. We're going to be looking at reframing it. So onboarding is hiring second act, and then tactics. So 4 moves that fix the first 90 hours. And then we're going to show some system-based information in here as well. So what this looks like for us today, guys, is a very in-depth deep dive into best practices around onboarding and how you can implement this straight away. So we want you guys to have real quick takeaways from this call, from this meeting, from this video, from this live. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask them. but let's go into it. So when customers talk to you about their onboarding process, Lucas, what do they tend to talk about? What gaps are they seeing?
I think everybody is really looking for automation, because I think we are in the age of AI and automation. And I think so this is one of the things that comes a lot of times in the discussion, is like how we can automate this journey, make sure that everybody has great experience. First is always to find out what the great experience means, because it can be completely different to think for other
Mm.
people. But it is really identifying and providing the best journey and making sure that we can repeat it. So it's something that every new joiner will go and have the same experience, and you can manage that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't really say this out loud, to be honest, and they don't really set this as the standard. But by the time someone shows up on day one, the verdict has actually already been cast on whether they'll thrive in the organization. And that sounds dramatic, doesn't it? By the end of, but it isn't. It actually isn't. And by the end of week one, most new hires have decided that whether they're going to back out and look for another job, or whether whether they're going to stick around. They're deciding whether they were going to. They've regretted the decision of taking the plunge. Change is difficult anyway. So why do we make it more difficult? So there are 4 failure modes, right? 4 failure modes. Every HR team I've seen has recognized. And in some of these are combinations as well. So the first one, Lucas, is day one is paperwork drill. So the new hire spends their day filling out forms, watching compliance videos, and then also waiting for the dreaded laptop because it hasn't been provisioned yet. And then they go home wondering why they've joined, right? 2, nobody owns the first month. So HR did the welcome. The manager assumes HR has it. The team assumes the manager has it, and nobody has it. Nobody has it. 3, the hiring promise evaporates. You know, that promise of selling the world, selling the dream, they call it, right? It evaporates. They were sold during the interview on certain things, and what they find on day one is actually not the same role. They notice, and then their trust erodes. And 4, check-ins are happening too late. So, you know, most teams check in at like 90 days, but when the new hire has already decided that they don't want to be there anymore. These are 4 things. Do you see these often in your world, Lucas?
Yes, a lot. It happens a lot, with a lot of discussions. And even from my experience, this is something that comes across quite a lot. And this is what we try to help in many ways, especially taking the step one, taking the paperwork, the other boring stuff. You can actually do it before day one. You can spread it across the days. You can create a nice plan that is automated. You don't skip any steps. Everything is nicely managed, monitored. So you can always know that, okay, we done all the steps required. Allows you to nicely put it in a space. Same thing, there's a clear message around who's owning what in the part of the process, check-ins. You can actually create a journey for that as well. How often and how does it look like? So we can help with that one as well.
Yeah.
But yes, these are very common problems that happen to a lot of businesses. Don't really take onboarding seriously.
And buddies as well. You can also add in buddies into Kumo HR, right? So your buddies get notified when they're a buddy.
Yes.
And everyone is really kept in the loop on that experience. Very, very important. Very, very important. And so here are 3 numbers that most teams don't track. There's a 20% quit within 45 days. Did you know that? 20% of new hires who leave a role do so in the first 6 weeks. Most decisions about staying are made well before then. So that's quite a significant number, isn't it? I mean, think about what that costs, actually. Let's really look at the actual cost of that. So you've gone through that whole interview journey, okay? You've identified this candidate. They had a good let's say recruitment experience, because they wouldn't have accepted the offer. Then they get into the onboarding, and the onboarding is just shocking, and that makes them leave. So you spent 6 weeks on average, in the hiring journey to select a candidate. That's time cost, okay? Then they join, then they leave, then you have to go and start that recruitment process again. And often when we have roles because we needed someone yesterday, not because we need them in the future. So that cost even of not having someone in that role. I think there was a statistic. It actually costs around £36,000. This was a couple of years ago, actually. If someone quits, by making the wrong hire, so or giving the wrong experience, and 33% are looking elsewhere within week one. So they browse other jobs. They look. They start speaking to their recruiters, and its average time is 8 months for full productivity, a new hire. But good onboarding cuts that in half, Lucas. What are your
And
thoughts on those statistics? Anything surprise you there?
yeah, I mean, if you think about it in the numbers, I think many times people don't, when you don't do proper reporting and you start looking, okay, where we have issues, you don't really see it. But when you start really running reports and you see 20%, it's a lot. And this is, like you said, it can be, you spend 6 weeks, but the process can take 6 weeks. And then waiting for the candidate when they resign before they can join. So this can be easily 3 to 4 months that have been completely wasted. And that's when it comes to 36,000, as you mentioned,
Mm,
as a loss, which is massive. Some companies may be able to afford it and they go, well, who cares? But I think for a lot of companies, make a difference between we made it and we are going bust. So I
yeah,
think so to
absolutely.
take it seriously, it's very important.
Yeah, 100%. And so there's three things that good onboarding is not, okay? Number one, onboarding isn't a HR program, okay? It's the second act of hiring. But number one, a continuation of the hiring promise. So what good onboarding actually is, rather than what it's not, sorry. A continuation of the hiring promise. What do you think I mean by a continuation of the hiring promise, Lucas?
So many times what happen, and this is what we discussed it last week, is about it's not recruiting for the sake of recruiting, having recircle the job description. It's really about looking how the person's going to join the business, how they're going to add value, what are their KPIs, what are their goals set for the next 3, 6, 12 months, how they're going to be fitting into the organization and what value they're going to add. It's
Yeah.
very, very important. So this is something that when person is recruited for, comes in, actually joins and actually doing the job, that's exactly how it should be. Say, okay, this is what was sold to me and I'm actually doing it.
Yeah. And it's not manager led. So it's manager led rather, and HR orchestrated. That's an interesting one, right? Because HR would love to own the hiring process. So why do you think we talk about it being manager led?
A manager makes a massive, massive difference when it comes to you on board and now you are part of the organization. HR can't be handholding you. You need to have a manager who's going to show you how it needs to be done. So it's the manager who's going to be the one and he's going to understand the job. Exactly
Mm.
tells you, okay, you can do this. This is how we do it. This is how we perform and gives you all the guidance. And, it's more like, I would not say even manager. It's almost like a mentor. I think that's when it's working. You have a leader that's going to be there, understand your capabilities and going to help you from day one to grow, to learn, to get on a journey, to get you excited, to get you engaged. And only manager can do it, not HR. HR can help you with the tools, but it's manager's job.
Yeah, so HR can design the system, but the manager has to run it because they bond with the people they sit next to, don't they? So it's really important that the manager is really involved in this onboarding, in this good onboarding process. And it's front loaded as well. Good onboarding is front loaded. Now you may say, oh, well, we don't want to overwhelm people, but actually the first 90 hours are what matters most, not the next 90 days, right? Because that's when the verdict has been cast. That's how serious this is. And so here's what good onboarding is not. So it's not a welcome pack and a swag bag. We've got a free bottle. We've got plenty of bottles. We don't need that, right? Branded merch is fine. Don't get me wrong. People do like it. Or have they got fatigue over branded merch? I don't know. But if your onboarding ends when the t-shirt arrives, then it never actually started. Would you agree with that, Lucas?
100%. I think you can throw nice things at people. If it doesn't mean anything, doesn't align with anything, it's just money wasted. But like you said, it can make a difference as well. I think a lot of people like to receive something and makes them feel of part of something or people care about me. But if it's just on its own, it's money wasted.
Yeah. And also, a lot of companies fall in the trap of giving people the handbook, that nobody reads. Who reads the handbook? And if you do, then, I mean, isn't there better things to do with your role, you know? But if that's if the answer to every question is, "I'll go look at the handbook," then actually you're abandoning that person, right? Because that person should be able to approach anyone and them get the answers. Because if they have to go and ask, even check the handbook, then that means the person who gave the answer didn't check the handbook either because they don't know the answer. So that just tells you that the handbook is not a good thing, a 50-page handbook. And also, it's not a HR project that ends at 2 weeks, okay? It needs to be structured throughout the journey that they're with you. Lucas, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I think so. That is really correct. I think we were talking about the importance of manager playing the role in this whole process. And it's not about, the handbook. I think it's nice when you can digest it, and there's certain ways you can always fill in. I think now we also see shift going from handbooks to more of a culture books, which talks a little bit more about, okay, this is who we are, this is how we work, these are our values, rather than focusing on you don'ts, do's, how we do it, how we dress, what you do. It's more about like who we are and give you a little bit more sense of belonging.
And that's exactly why we built that culture and media section, the culture
Yes.
sections where you can provide your values. So people can click through, they can go to the culture section and see all the past events that you've done, any media you've put out there, employer branding stuff where you can share with your individuals your values, the mission statement of the organization. People can go and view this. They can like it, they can comment on it as if you would on a social media. It's about bringing that mission to life, bringing your values to life, so they're not just stuck in a handbook somewhere in an office, or on a drive somewhere stuck where it's just meaningless. And that actually, but to be honest, that handbook one is quite interesting, I think, because most companies believe they're being helpful when they give people a handbook. They think they're being helpful, but the right way to think about it, I think, would be that documentation is for a reference. It's not a plan, okay? Because plans need humans. So here's something I want to frame today. Here's what I want everyone to leave this section with, which is stop designing onboarding for the company. Start designing it for the first hour of the first day of the new hires week one. That's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? Start designing it for the first hour of the first day of the new hires week one. Lucas, what does that mean?
I think we hit it. I think in a certain ways we were talking about, you have the 90 hours that people really make decision. And this is in a life, we do it everything. Recruitment, good TA comes on an interview. It takes them few seconds. They're going to know this is a good fit or not. You're going to go on a first date. You're going to go somewhere. After a couple of minutes, okay, we hit it off or not. Same thing. An employee comes in, spends the first hour in a business, probably already make the decision. I love this place, or this is not really for me. So these opinions we form in a life over and over very quickly. So you need to make sure that first experience, because you don't get a second chance in it many times. No, it's not going to be second day. It's not going to be maybe give me one more chance in the interview. It's not going to happen. So you need to be very, very good doing
Yeah,
it the first time around.
precisely. And so, because obviously, look, I keep mentioning it, but that is where the verdict gets cast, okay? Because everything else after that is downstream, from that. So there's 4 moves, this fixes the first 90 hours. And these are things that you need systems around you to be able to adopt and do effectively, okay? Anything that has a system around it is always likely to succeed. If you're just plucking it out of thin air and just hoping that you can run through these, then it's going to be quite a challenge for you. So the pre-boarding, okay, pre-boarding, this is the week before day 1. Now, these are 5 things to send before they even walk in, okay, and also, funny enough, you notice how none of them is paperwork, Lucas? None is paperwork here. So it's a note from their manager, number 1, yeah? What does that do when you get a note from your new manager?
It's a massive, massive, massive difference. I think mentioned it last week. From the time you resign and the time you're gonna join the new business, it's probably the
Sorry, my
most
cat
long.
is moaning. Excuse me, let me get him out of there. Could you hear it? I mean,
Yeah, it's the most loneliest time in a kind of professional history, because already the old company check out on you. It's like, okay, they will not be with
Yeah.
us. Okay, you're going, do the handover. The new company is quite busy doing everything else, so nobody really cares. To have a note or call from the new manager, say, oh, you know what, how are you? Are you going to join us in a couple of weeks? Can we do something for you? It makes such a difference in that person's life. It's very, very important.
Yeah, 100%. It's just that, it's a great touch, isn't it? It's a beautiful touch, and then there's the first week schedule already booked in. So you plan their first week. They're like, wow, this organization is absolutely on top of it. Then one real document that they'll need. So it could be the strategy doc, the roadmap. This is their trusted. This is they're trusted with real work. So you could actually send them that ahead of time. Now, don't forget, when you offered for the role, Lukas, it's exciting, isn't it? You're starting a new chapter. You're starting a new role. What an amazing, exciting time. So when you get that that document that comes through, you're like, wow, this is actually the type of the work that we're going to be doing. This is where the company's going and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
then names and photos of their team. I know that this seems like a bit overkill, but actually it's making sure that day one, the room isn't full of strangers, And then another thing is what to bring and what to expect. Now, I hear HR people now droning on saying, oh, but that's admin for me to do. It is admin, again, if you don't have a system which can support you with it, Anything you want to add to this, Lukas?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is something that, again, we built for. This is what Kumo is built for. We actually have people can create the small bios. So you not only share the pictures, you show the bios of who's the person is about, what hobbies they have. So before even going in, you may know your team, you may know who they are, know a little bit about themselves, what hobbies they have. So you have already talking points. So people have more likely going to start, conversation where they already know, actually, you know what, you like bike riding as well. Can we do this? Actually, I saw you like cooking. Which is your favorite cuisine? What do you do this? What do you cook? And you have so many things, and actually gets the person engaged, and they integrate much better, much faster, and they
Yeah.
have tendencies to stay longer as well.
And it's so underrated, these things, that actually that the touches they give people and how it makes people feel. The second move is the 90-hour rule. Have you heard of this, Lukas? The 90-hour rule. I think I've spoken to you many times about it.
We spoke about it. I think it's quite familiar, but I think so for a lot of people will be brand new concept.
Yeah, exactly. So number one is belong. Okay. 2, context. 3, shadow. Contribute in hours 25 to 60 and then decide, okay, 21 to 90. Now, this is a phased design, okay, and it's designed to do the first 90 hours of work, not the first 90 days. Now, that's what we want our HR individuals to be designing, is the first 90 hours of work. And that is through doesn't take much time to do, but what it actually does is it creates a structure for those first 90 hours, and those are the times that people make their decision, right? So as I said, belong. So first of all, hour one is coffee with the team. Don't do agendas and paperwork. So let's let them assimilate, let everyone have a chat. And the trouble is we're all busy doing the work, aren't we? So when we have a new joiner, they just sort of slot into just doing the work, but actually assimilate first of all. 2 hours 2 to 8, which is basically the end of the first day. It's, what we're building, why we're doing it, and where they fit as well into the context. And hours 9 to 24, which basically comes over the next 2 days. This is sit with one teammate doing real work, but ask just shadow. Don't be doing it yourself, but ask anything, shadow them. And then you give a task at the 25th hour to the 60, and you give them that so they can do that by Friday. Okay, so they can ship it out by Friday. They've done something, they've contributed to the organization. And then hours 61 to 90 is where they have their first one-to-one with their manager. What's working, what's not, and then you iterate the process based on that. If we think about contributing by Friday, this is, I think, where most teams resist, okay? Because they want the new hire to be fully ramped up, before doing anything real. Now, why do you think we fight for the case of doing real work in week one?
I think it is very important. I think it's one of those, first, you're going to see how people can perform very quickly. So you don't wait till 3 months and then you're going to either terminate probation or you're going to extend probation. You're going to do something. You already see on the week one. People also need to understand this is a professional environment. We came here to work. You need to do some work from day one. And I think so. I just recently watched, there was an interview with Horowitz. He's quite big in, helping people scale. And it was talking about, like, when he has the new joiners, they hit the ground running right away. It's like, okay, what is your plan to do? It's like, oh, I want to do this. Okay, so let's do it. You need to start. And that also shows that, okay, I'm here to contribute. And sometimes it shocks people, but when they see that actually you need to do work and you start working and there's a structure to it, it actually gives you a lot of sense of belonging, gets you a lot of sense of being part of it and contributing to something.
Yeah, amazing. And then the third move that we need to be doing is the manager-led 30 days. And this really needs to get manager buy-in and really getting them involved in the process. So the HR will design this system, right? But the manager will run it, and the new hire will bond with the manager through it. So week one is that 15-minute check-in, walk through the 90-day plan, set first real task, as we spoke about. Behind the scenes, HR will be looking at the new hire whether the new hire is going quiet. Will equip the manager as well. They will just look at the frictions that could possibly exist, but not get too involved and hands-on. HR are more the orchestrator than the doer. First, there's week two is the way they have their first weekly one-to-one. So the manager should be asking, what surprised them? Is things harder than expected? What's easier? And HR will ask the question in week two is, how was your first week? Give us the honest feedback. How can we improve, So the manager's running it, HR are orchestrating for improving the process and improving the company-wide onboarding. And then week three is, introduce them to a stakeholder outside the team the manager must do. So they show them how the organization really works. It could be, someone senior, could be someone, horizontal, but introduce them to someone outside their team. So they start assimilating with the other teams and the other departments. Now, HR can connect them with a peer in another team as well. So they can go actually say, you know what, here's someone on the same level as you, and go speak to them about XYZ. Week four is that 30-day review. How many people or how many organizations fail to do the 30-day review, Lukas?
A lot. You will
Yeah.
be surprised.
Why is that a big error, a big no-no?
No, I think so. It's always about, even if let's say you have somebody joins and they have a 30, 60, 90, 180-day plan, or that's, if it's just a paper, it does nothing. Like there's a saying, like, if you're talking about doing it, you're not doing it. If you're thinking about doing it, you're not doing it. If you're thinking about why you're not doing it, you're still not doing it. Only way you're gonna do it by doing it. So it is very important to hit the ground running, to work on it, and to check, to feedback and to see, because there sometimes needs to be adjustments. It gives you opportunity to ask questions, gives you the opportunity to give feedback, and should be both ways. This should be very open conversation when you go, okay, you know what, we like this, I don't like this, or how can I do better? And also, coming back to what you mentioned, actually being introduced to other stakeholders across the business is also very important. And I saw companies that do quite well was also they have people that join the organization in a small office, even remote. They flew them to a big offices where they meet other people, understand the whole business cycle, understand, okay, how we acquire clients, how we onboard, how we operate, what we're selling, the product, the marketing, the finance, the HR, every single department. You kind of have opportunity to either speak to, see the presentation, gives you better idea, also understand when you're dealing with them, what information you're sharing, what you are passing on, what they expect from you. So then you
Yeah.
see, okay, they operate sometimes, like you see a lot of time, oh, they just slowing everything down. But there's maybe a reason. When you have the opportunity to meet the other stakeholders across the business and talk to them and see what their frustration is, see it from their side, why they require the information, is, oh, actually, I didn't even think about it angle, but makes sense. And that frustration and a lot of things just disappear just by understanding the processes.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. These weeks that we go through are so important, and 30-day review, I think, is one of the most important things that someone can do because, you know, often that may be the time where you can actually really prevent the wobble, the wobble of the person because you're catching it early. Not everything's perfect, guys. We understand that, but we can do our best to mitigate a lot of things.
And
Go on.
come to it, a lot of time what happen, I think companies assume that other managers are good managers. I think we also need to be a little bit fair and support managers. And if they don't have the right skills, to upskill them, to help them, to become more of a mentors, to support. But sometimes you will have managers that kind of afraid to have this conversation because something doesn't work well. I don't want to really say
You don't want to
anything
be, yeah.
negative. You need to be able to do it. You need to have the skills to actually say, look, I don't like this. Because if you let it go, after 30, 60, 90 days, this just become bigger and bigger issue. It doesn't get smaller. It doesn't disappear. You need to catch it, put it right on the track, fix it, and continue. And you need to make it in a very constructive way, not to be like, oh, you messed up, you're going to be fired. It's more like, okay, you know what? You made a mistake. Do you know why would you make mistake? How would you can make it better? But how can I support you to make a better decision or do it better, do it faster, do whatever needs to be done? And actually help them, guide them on the journey. That's very important.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes really important to be candid, isn't it? And to have candid feedback. I think that's really important as well. Opening that. When I worked for Apple before, they had this really great thing. It was called fearless feedback, and basically you could give anyone feedback, no matter what role, level, seniority, manager, but everyone was requested to give feedback. You were required to give each other feedback, and that's a beautiful thing, I think, when it comes to developing and continuing to develop. So the 60-day check-in as well is one that people don't run. So the 30 days we spoke about, but then the 60-day check-in. So most teams also skip this one because, and actually why 60, not 90? Because actually, why do you think I mentioned 60 days and not the 91, Lucas?
I think it's again comes to, if you are, especially like in a fast-paced organization, that extra 30 days makes a massive difference. And people, it needs to be kind of continual stuff. It's good to see that you are, and you check on the people and people feel more like, okay, it's not about being monitored. It's about belonging. It's about being part of it. It's about people see how you're adding value. If you kind of, nobody checks on you, feel like, well, I'm not important here. Usually when people feel like, oh, they check on you, this happened, and it's very constructive. I'm not saying like people come and complain or are afraid to speak to you, it's a different story. But if you have a constructive conversation quite often, it means, okay, I'm actually being part of it.
Yeah,
I'm adding value and they value what I'm doing here.
yeah. And also, so it's a sweet spot because they've seen the real work, number one. They also feel they can speak honestly because, they haven't been brought into the bureaucracy of the organization just yet, if there is bureaucracy. And then also it's an opportunity for HR and the manager to be able to meaningfully change that experience, to nip things in the bud. Should it be issues arising or should there be concerns? The 4 questions to ask are always these, really, in my opinion. So what surprised you, good or bad? And that imploring them to even highlight the bad stuff. What's slowing you down? That's a really great question, I think. What's slowing you down that I could fix? And because it's framing that actually, if things are slowing you down, we want to sort it out. Managers there to actually unblock bottlenecks. Also, who hasn't introduced themselves to you who should have? Why do you think that's an important question? It's not about dobbing people in. It's not about tell-tattling. Why do you think that's an important question?
I think all of them are very important. And actually, to be honest with you, been through this process many, many times. And actually, when we were utilizing feedback, especially the 90-day feedback, like you said, this very sweet spot, we find out a lot of things, especially the bad stuff. And if you have a review mechanism in the place that allows you, okay, to collect the information, it's not only collecting information and filing it, it's about collecting and actioning it. And if you have that mechanism in the place, And you see, and we have a lot of time was actually especially feedback around, okay, maybe manager doesn't have enough time. And okay, how we can make sure that manager spends more time with the individual, is more engaged and things like that. So it is very important because, like you said, this is a very critical stuff. And if you start acting on it and put things in place, only thing you're gonna do is gonna improve. And that's what it is about: continual improvement as a business, as an individual, as a manager, as organization goes. So it's very, very important part of it. So this is gonna give you a very good insight. And yes, like you said, especially the number 4, it's very, people may find it surprising, but it is a very tricky way and it makes people think about different ways. And then it's potentially highlighting some issues you may have down the stream, because they may not, seems like, oh, it's a small thing, but it seems like if they already highlighted after 60 days, then there may be a potential.
Yeah.
It's probably there.
Yeah, amazing. And that number 4 question is open for a reason, right? And I don't think people should skip that question because I think the whole check-in's actually worth running just for that question. Do you know what I mean? That number 4 question. So, there are ways that you can build great onboarding experiences, and we really, really want to make sure that at Kumo that you're able to do this in a very, very awesome way. So we allow our system to run in the background for you. So when you saw these items earlier around the check-in, if you notice, everything we discussed was about human to human contact because we're eliminating all the administration behind it by using a great system and putting things in place. So the best things to take away from today, and I feel like people should take away, is most onboarding fails even before day one. So that way before even the day one happens. And the verdict of that individual has been set by the time they show up. Onboarding is hiring second act. So don't see they'll want to sign the offer and that's it. They're going to be with you for life. They're going to be with you for 5 years. That experience that you give them in onboarding is very, very important. And design the first 90 hours, not the first 90 days. They will look after themselves if the first 90 hours have been done properly. HR should always orchestrate, but the manager should run it because it is the manager's team and it gives autonomy to them. Anything else you would like to add to that, Lukas?
No, and I think so. It's the consistency. I think when you put it in the place and you have the right system that allows you to deliver 100% of the time, that's when you hit the sweet spot. And that's when
Exactly.
you have something and you keep reviewing and you keep adjusting it. So you keep making sure that you're still on the top. Makes massive difference. Now you have a lot of places like Glassdoor and other. They're not only asking about the employees, they're asking about the onboarding process, they're asking about the recruitment process. And it's more and more people actually giving feedback. So it's becoming also an important part of how companies perceive you, how others perceive you, how you're being perceived by the markets.
Mm.
It adds a lot. It's very important. Onboarding, it is massive.
And it's a huge part of Kumo as well, and something that we take really seriously, even down to, Lukas, which you haven't seen yet, but the iOS and Android apps that we're just about to demo to yourself, which we're going to get a video over to you within the evening. But the iOS and Android apps, they've got onboarding built into them. So imagine how cool it would be for you as a business to be able to fire off a link to an app. They download the application and people can complete their onboarding on their device. The stuff
Awesome.
that's early days, you know what I mean? How cool would that be? The experience. And you got to think about this from people expect that today. They expect the Amazon style experience, even in their onboarding, even in their employment. So amazing. Just in the interest of time, we are going to close this up. We've had a great chat today. Next week, we're continuing the journey. Actually, we're going into audit next week and de-risking HR. Because audit is a huge thing. Audits in HR is a huge thing. But we don't want to be boring about it. So we'll be covering a load of awesome stuff for HR professionals, and how they can do it outside of Kumo, but how if they do it in Kumo, they're going to save a lot of time in their week to be more human and to be able to connect with your employees even more so. Lukas, it's always a pleasure having this call with you. We'll see everyone next Wednesday at 2 p.m. sharp. If you're on YouTube and you're watching it here, like, subscribe. And if you've liked this and you're watching live, please share to your colleagues. Tag someone who would be interested in this stuff. Tag people who would be interested in Kumo. Kumo is a really great tool, guys, that actually I think would change a lot of HR functions on how they operate. Lukas, anything from you, bud?
No, I mean, Antonio, pleasure always to doing this with you. And this is not rehearsed, we have an honest conversation here. And I love it. It's live, it's natural, it is what it is. And if you have any questions or you have anything about any other subjects or some things you would like us to talk about, we are happy to take it on board. We are happy to run sessions. Here, this is all based for our followers, for our people that are interested in HR and want to learn a bit more, to share our knowledge, to share our experience and how we can make it better. So any subject, anything, we're happy to hear from you.
Absolutely. And if you want to join us, if anyone wants to come on live, come up and we will have a good chat. And as the slide here says, if your team's onboarding needs an upgrade, we'd love to show you what good orchestration looks like. We'll give you a free audit, and then also you'll spend 30 minutes with one of the Kumo team, obviously either myself, Lukas, or someone else. We would love to take you through something better. I think Lukas said it quite well the other week. He said, we love our competitors, because we do. But actually, we think you'll love them, but you'll love us better, love us more, or something like that, Lukas, you said, right?
Yeah.
Really cool. All right, dude. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you next Wednesday.
Awesome. Thank you.
God bless. Bye-bye. Awesome. That was a good chat, actually.